Morning. It's not, well, it is morning. I've had maybe 2.5 hours of sleep. That part I wasn't planning on, but I got some rest. I'm in a hotel room. In a few minutes, I'm going downstairs and taking a shuttle over to the airport. And then we get to try out Frontier Airlines again and their business class. So let's get started. It didn't feel like I had my head screwed on straight, but the ride to the airport was quick and tidy, and here we are, ready to go. One thing about modern airports, or at least most major airports built in the last 40, 50, 60 years, is that they inevitably involve a long train ride to a terminal. It's a kind of necessary evil, but one that frankly I think grows a little tiring on me. People remark that it's quicker to the terminal, but I find it in some ways just more intrusive in my trip to the gate. Since these airport terminals are now connected by trains, they're allowed to be much bigger as terminals, and that means lots more walking, lots more space. Now, it gives you a wide and open area, and that feels more comfortable as you're walking through the terminal, but escalators and slidewalks really don't make up for what actually turns out to be a lot of walking. Well. I'm back here at Denver Airport. I'm actually boarding the exact same plane that I flew in the previous video. And I'm flying home. This time I am using my Go Wild Pass, which means this flight cost me $16 to go home on. But I paid the upgrade of, I think, $44 to enjoy Frontier's business class. I keep doing air quotes because it's definitely looks like a product from what I saw last night, similar to what you see in Europe. I'm interested on the legroom because, to be honest, last night flying in, the legroom was really tight. I've been on some tight airlines in my life, but I would say that was just as about as restricted legroom as I've ever experienced. Anyway, so we'll try the business class. We'll see what the product is like in the front of the plane. And with that, let's go down to the gate. I'll tell you something I see a lot these days. Airports I go into have a heavier and heavier presence from Delta than other airlines. Here in Denver, Delta's big. American, not so much. Down here in the Frontier Dungeon at Denver Airport, it's a long line to board. And this line was made even longer by the fact that somebody left the building in an unauthorized doorway, and we were all held in place for about 10 or 15 minutes while they tracked that person down and secured the area. Eventually, we got going, and again, I will say this, Frontier knows how to board an airplane very quickly. And to me, again, that means that people are going through this process regularly. They understand what it is, and they move through it very, very quickly. I would say this was a good 30% quicker than any of the American Airlines flights I've boarded, and that's worth taking note of. This was probably the best part of the whole trip. Walking out here first thing in the morning with the dawn sky, a bit of a golden hour going, and the chance to see airplanes up close. I have to say, I was pretty excited walking up to the airplane. And surprisingly, this airplane was the exact same airplane I had flown in on just a few hours earlier. I was literally turning around and using it to go right back to Dallas. While I don't think that the furnishings inside the aircraft are the most comfortable seats in the business, I do want to point something out. They're new, They're attractive, they're pleasant, and they're kept very clean. And how much more can you say for an airline than that? Sure, I'd like the seat to be just a little bit more cushier, and I think everybody would. But at the end of the day, a lot of points are scored by this equipment. This time I was flying up front in more space up front, or business class. And it's a kind of European style with the center seat blocked, but there was a ton more room. And I could do this flight for quite a bit longer than I could at the seat that I occupied in the back just hours earlier. Sure, you start off in Denver when you start taxiing, but by the time you actually take off, it feels like you're in Wichita, Kansas. little bit more space up front, it felt much more comfortable. And while I was tired and maybe a little crabby on the trip, this didn't strike me as the worst way to go. The plane, again, took off on time. The service, quick and effective. The seat space, up front at least, for an extra, I think $44, more than worth it. Could I fly this aircraft all the way safe from Dallas to Portland, Oregon, a flight I do regularly? Yeah, and it actually might be better than some of the American seating I've had. Now, I bought each of my seats from Dallas to Denver and Denver back on this flight. Each of those seats cost me $16 each, and that was because I had a Go Wild pass that I purchased last December. Was that worth it? Well, this was purchased for me as an experiment to use Frontier, and so far, yes, I would say it was worth it. Would it be worth it to you? I think you're going to actually have to decide how much you travel. To be fair, I think you should actually use the pass more than just a couple of times to really get your value out of it. But $16 base fare, I paid a small fee to book a window seat on the way up to Denver, and I paid, I think, a $44 fee to do the more space up front on the way back. I didn't pay for any luggage because I just had a backpack. So, could I do this for a weekend trip on a regular basis? Sure, I could. And I'd probably be more rested the next time I did it. Do I like the late night departure or the early morning departure? Not so much, but again, hey, $16. Now, what's a Go Wild pass? Well, it's Frontier's way of kind of an unlimited pass. In other words, for a set fee, and in my case I paid $299 last December, I get to take an unlimited number of trips at the lowest fare possible, generally about $16, but I have to book only 1 day in advance for domestic trips, but I do get foreign or international trips for 10 days in advance. Each time I've used this, I've used it one day in advance, and $16 is $16. Now, that pass price went up considerably after I bought mine. Later in the year, they were $599. Recently, I was offered the opportunity to renew for the next year for another $299. And did I do it? Well, to my surprise, I did. I think there's more to this experiment, and I think this airline's going to let me stage to other parts of the country for other videos. You might be interested as well, so keep an eye out for one of their specials, act quick, and you might just get lucky. Okay, well, it wasn't bad. I would actually say being in their more space up front seat is more than adequate. If you can get it for a very cheap price, probably worth it. Here are the things that I see as an upside for Frontier. Number one, they really know how to board an airplane fast. Two, the more space up front was big enough to be comfortable enough that I think you could go 4 hours in that seat. Three, it's inexpensive. It's cheap. Downsides, a lot of inexperienced travelers. Flight times, terrible. Like, I feel grouchy from getting up early. Of course, I didn't sleep much, but I had to leave really late at night. These are the prices you pay for really cheap airfare to some place. Is it worth it? I don't know. In most cases, I would say probably not. That being said, I didn't see anything wrong with the service. Their service product is easy. You want something, you pay us. But they were quick. They were delivering things into people's hands, and they had time left over. I would say, as a Frontier experience, say compared to my recent Southwest Airlines experience, honestly, the Frontier experience might well have been better. I'm not saying something, Southwest. I think the flight attendants were friendlier. I think the seats and the aircraft were way cleaner than my last Southwest Airlines experience. And I would even say their aircraft are quiet. They seem modern. There's a lot to say positively about that. I think the downsides are going to typically be what I already said. And to recap, the seats, the legroom, time of flying. But man, you can save a lot of money. So that's it. I'm gonna go find my car and go home and sleep. Maybe eat and then sleep. I hope you enjoyed this 2 video series, and remember, if you enjoy watching our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. And that's it for this time. Remember, if you take our advice, you're going to end up traveling somewhere.